Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host, Elias. Today we are discussing episodes 3 and 4 of Money Heist, Part 4. Episode 3 basically just covered Lisbon being notified by the cop. I failed to mention at the end of episode 2 that cop is persuaded by the professor and Marcel to go tell Lisbon that everything is going to be okay. And so from there, she's notified that he's alive. There's a big flashback with the professor's brother stabbing a heavyset man, and just kind of reiterating to us that he still is a pretty bad guy ultimately, and not to forget that. Nairobi wakes up from her surgery, and we find out Rio has some serious PTSD from the torture that was inflicted upon him when he was when he's being interrogated. I was like, I don't recall him having to go through this type of torture or anything that traumatic at the end of part 3. I'd have to go back and check. I do remember him being questioned. I don't remember him having to go out and dig his own grave. That sounded pretty intense. And they said they were leaving him in cells that were, just a few feet wide and just terrible conditions. It ends up that Rio lets what's his name, Ganada, go. Ganada is the Green Beret that is head of security at the bank, and he's tied up with Palermo. Palermo basically tells him, you can remove your thumb's joint or something like that, and you can escape the handcuffs. And I'm sure the Green Beret Ganada knew that, but he ends up getting out anyway, holding a gun to Rio. Rio decides that he can't shoot him, and so Ganada is somewhere in the bank at the end of episode 3. Nairobi wakes up at the same time. At the very beginning of this episode 4, he brought back they brought back the professor's brother once again in interesting fashion. I had no idea that the professor's brother was going to be so prevalent in this season, and it still is laying out the tracks of how this heist was supposed to go down with the direction of Palermo and Berlin. So we get a backstory with the hostage during this. This is the hostage being Ganada. We find out he's already a hard ass and is he has assassin skills. He's a Green Beret. He is someone you don't want to mess with, and definitely someone you don't want to have going against you during a bank heist. I was like, oh fuck, this is like some real intense shit. Having, out of all the people that escape, you got like the number one guy you don't want to escape. So we get a decent backstory with this hostage. Arturo is trying to call Denver's and Monica's bluff. And he knows, I think Arturo knows that Denver and Monica are not killers, given that he was in the situation at a different and he was in the previous heist, and he knows, I think generally no one went down except for Berlin on their side. And so I think he already is trying to call their bluff by saying that there's more people trying to rebel than not. The thing is, they don't have guns or anything, so when Denver's shooting up in the air in the sky, I'm surprised the people outside, the police weren't freaking out that they didn't kill any hostages, for one thing, but also that the hostages that were in there didn't just sit down and shut up, because I don't really, even though we know our main characters are not killers, those people don't know that. Or they're not supposed to know that. So it looks like they're trying to build some sort of connection between Raquel's, between Raquel and the detective Alicia through her husband's backstory. We find out Alicia, her husband, was killed, I believe. Sorry, he was not killed. He died from cancer. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking of someone else. But he dies from cancer, and it's this big revelatory thing. Long story short, her boss um, ends up saying that I don't know if you're able to perform in this environment, having that you just lost your husband within 2 months ago or something like that. And I thought that was a little bit big of a leap in logic, and she completely confronts him on that. I didn't know which way it was gonna go at that point with the with with her boss saying Tamayo saying, I don't think you should work there. Alicia straight up just announces to everybody in the office, in the police unit, the mobile police unit, that she lost her husband and that she knows the best thing for her right now is to be, working for her, so to be working so that it keeps her mind off of things she doesn't want to be thinking about, such as maybe the death of her husband. And so that's why she's so good at her job. That's why it's what makes her tick. And so I did feel like this was just so that this scene was there to set up just for her to say, I want to, this is what I want to do, and this is why I'm doing it. Explaining motivation. So, Ganada is leaving a lot of people alive, even though he's cutting it extremely close. At the very beginning, we almost lose Nairobi, which I've come to the conclusion that we're probably not going to lose Nairobi out of these, small different ways. Like, if they're not going to kill her after she sees her son, and then she gets shot, and then she gets, she's nearly smothered to death by Ganada. There's multiple times that if you try to risk someone's life too many times within a series, it becomes a little bit draining, and you can only go to that well only so many times. I will say I'm getting a little bit strained on how many times they can inflict possible death on Nairobi, mostly because I don't believe that she's going to die at this point. So, she's lived through getting shot. She's lived through a bank heist. She's living through another bank heist. She's lived through a Green Beret almost killing her. There's just like multiple things that she's had to endure. And so going along with all these people that are still alive from this Green Beret, even though he's a quote-unquote assassin, he hasn't actually killed anybody, but he nearly kills Nairobi, almost kills Helsinki by, stringing him up and hanging him. But Helsinki ends up being fine. Not that I want any of these people to die. I just think they like their cast too much. And so I don't know if Money Heist has the cojones to really take anybody out in a serious fashion, with the exception of Berlin, which they still are bringing these people back. Like, I think they took out, what was it, Denver's father, and they took off Berlin as well, and they're taking off either like one notable character and then a side character, or vice versa. But right now, I think they like the cast too much. In this 24 style of television, it's like we're almost watching all of it in real time. Allows them to have 8 to 10 episodes. And so, let's see. Arturo needs a bullet in the ass. I know a lot of people are watching this and probably, had a problem with this scene. Why is Arturo being creepy? Why does he have to be rapey? Why does he have to be this kind of guy? He's not made out to be this conniving of an asshole and rapist in the first 2 seasons, I believe, but I do feel like the 3rd season they were trying to bring him back so that it made him look like he was going to be more of someone that just was a protagonist that just wasn't doing the right thing. But now he's turned into a complete asshole, drugging people and drugging women and trying to take advantage of them. I mean, it's just like, it's disgusting. He's he needs to be taken out. And which does surprise me by the way that they hold the hostages in this. Like, for as secure as they appear they are, they really aren't secure. Like, Arturo's just moving back and forth from room to room. People are escaping left and right. Really, I think they're doing a horrible job maintaining the hostages in this season, at least. So I once again with the Alicia thing, I don't think anyone was doubting that she had a strong head on her shoulders, and it's appeared that nobody knew about her husband's death, and the first they're hearing about it is, her screaming about it at the top of her lungs. It's like nobody seemed to care. It seemed like a very irrelevant thing to have a conversation about, to scream about. Mostly just kind of puts her on a pedestal and allows her to, give her 2 cents. But I was like, I don't feel like anybody had a doubt that you could run this shit, because you've been running it the entire time pretty flawlessly since season 3. And I think it was season 3. And really no complaints, and the only doubt that they're gonna have is the doubt that she's putting in their mind. I really didn't feel like it was a helpful speech. And Denver yelling about Rio being traumatized, like, who talks to people when they're traumatized like this? Like, I was like, what is going on with Denver having to just explain to people or scream to people that Rio is traumatized? I don't know in any scenario that you just blurt that out in a way that's helpful for any party. It just makes you look like an asshole. Like, I don't. He ends up apologizing for it later, but geez, like, I don't think. It made it seem like he was trying to, reveal a big secret or something like that. But it's like revealing someone has PTSD is not exactly, people might want to keep on the down low, but it doesn't feel like the most secretive thing. But it also doesn't feel like you need to just blurt it out. Jesus, like everybody needs to know. Like the professor needs to know, and people that putting you in charge need to know, but. Like, Denver didn't need to know. And I do feel like it's weird that they're trying to kind of turn on Rio a little bit. They're putting in their heads that possibly he was a traitor and he gave up some information, which it sounds like he was tortured into giving information about the transporters that are holding Raquel's family. And so he might not necessarily be a rat. But, I mean, they're showing, scenes of Rio holding the gun very close to Denver in the back of the head, like he could take him out if he wanted to, but that would just be a weird takeout. Like I feel like it's not with these characters to take each other out, at least in this form yet. I don't know if that's the show. Yeah, and then the Green Berets going around this entire place, fucking the whole camera system up. Professor can't see. He's knocking everybody out, knocks out Tokyo, and it's the typical someone gets knocked out and there's a telephone, left with the other person screaming on it, and that trope happens every time, or the walkie-talkie, and so Nairobi went from not wanting to touch the guy with the 10-foot pole, Bogota, to wanting to marry him or talk about marriage. That was quite a 180. I was not expecting that. I mean, Bogota has definitely been, on hands and knees doing whatever she needs to be, whatever she needs done for her. But I was just like, oh my Lanta, like that's a big skip in logic, for me personally. Skipped a few steps. Monica talks about scars from torture. Where are your scars from torture? That is kind of a fucked up question, in my opinion. I mean, everybody's wearing these suits. What does he want? She want facial scarring on Rio to prove that he actually was tortured? Like, I feel like there's multiple ways you could be tortured without actually showing any scarring. I thought that was not a clever question and kind of intrusive. And I would be pissed if I was Rio as well. I was like, fuck you. Ganada is like a monster in the vents. He's like, waiting for Tokyo before he gets her. He crashes through the vents. He's also looking at, I think it's Monica and Rio in that one scene, and he's just, continues in the vents a little bit more. It's a lot of overlooking of our main characters, and he's very conniving, this Green Beret guy. He actually goes into the fucking panic room, and he can see everything that's going on in the bank, and the professor can't. And now he has a full arsenal with grenades. He has bullets. He has ammunition. He grenades. He has guns. He has everything he needs to basically take out the crew. So it's a little unnerving for what could be happening next with everyone. Tokyo is someone that I'm worried about her, but this Green Beret guy hasn't killed anybody. I feel like even though Tamayo's saying the only way you can take out everybody is in self-defense. That's probably accurate, and you probably would be looked at as a hero. The Green Beret guy, Ganada, I keep forgetting his name sometimes. He is somewhat of a John McClane character. I'm not gonna lie that he is kind of a badass, and if you looked at him as the good guy, he is potentially gonna whoop some ass. But I have a feeling that there's gonna be a reversal on what's gonna happen on the Green Beret guy. I'm not Berlin implies that the only way that this is going to be able to be taken out is if they take out the Green Beret guy, and the professor gives Tokyo, full permission that anything you do needs to be done in self-defense, but it absolutely is necessary because it's either you or him. And so there is that kind of vital sense of urgency. The thing is, the people that write this like their characters so much that the Green Beret guy in another show probably should have taken out, probably should have killed Nairobi, probably should have killed Helsinki. And in another script draft, they probably actually did die, but they haven't exactly built out the rest of their their cast yet. I thought they were going to start doing it with Arturo and the one chick that he's defiling, but that's going to turn into a sour relationship, and it's not going to be good. We also got Palermo screaming at the top of his lungs, and he knows the entire plan from the Berlin and Professor perspective. He's with them in almost every flashback scene. I forget that because Berlin and Palermo were kind of an intimate couple at one point, and so they are, very much giddy about each other. But the thing is, you got to think about Palermo knows all the ins and outs of the plan, so just got to be keeping that in the back of our minds. Thank you all for listening, watching Look It All podcast, whether you're watching or listening on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Discord, all the popular social medias, you name it. Look It All podcast is available there. Be sure to check out the Portrait of a Lady on Fire review. We just dropped it like it's hot, and because it's on fire. And what else we have? Devs. Devs on Hulu, and then we have part 4 of Money Heist, and like I said, part 4 Money Heist continuing to come down the tube. Earlier seasons are available in the links, and I'll update the links so that they complete to the right place. And thank you for listening, watching Look It All podcast. We could not do this without you. If you have a few, like $1 or $2 that you're willing to donate to the podcast, it absolutely helps keep the streaming equipment going, keeps the streams flowing, keeps the content going. Thank you for donating, and take it easy.